Throughout history, there was and still are many events that displayed illusions of justice. An illusion of justice is a false impression of justice which every person in our society is responsible for, beginning with the slavery era. During the slavery era, the Compromise of 1850 was created, which included a fugitive slave law, meaning if slaves were able to escape to the north, they could be returned to their masters even though they reached a free state. The northern states are considered free because they abolished the institution of slavery independently, but agreed to enforce fugitive slave laws in order to prevent civil war with southern states that allowed slavery. Due to this compromise, they again didn't get the freedom they deserved. The compromise shocked many people and one in particular, Harriet Beecher Stowe, who as a result of this compromise was inspired to write the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, which depicts slavery as the cruelest of institutions, and the stories told are from the slaves, not the white perspective. She wrote the book to show how immoral and inhumane the compromise was. Slaves weren't treated as human beings. They were treated like animals and got beat, whipped, and cursed at. If slaves were returned to their masters, they were given punishment. After decades of African Americans fighting for their rights, the Civil War started, and when it ended, the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery was passed in 1865. In the late 1860s, the 14th and 15th Amendment guaranteed African Americans their rights of citizenship, equal protection, and the right to vote that cannot be denied based on their racial appearance. However, the government cannot protect and guarantee former slaves their new rights. Starting in the 1870s, groups such as the KKK did not recognize African Americans to be socially equal and wanted to enforce their own laws that ensured blacks would be inferior to whites socially and economically. Members of the KKK dressed up in white robes and hid their face like cowards. The KKK lynched, shot, kidnapped, and tortured African Americans in order to instill fear into them, so the white supremacy would remain in the South. Jim Crow laws was a written law that separated African Americans and white people. It caused segregation in public facilities, and eventually the white supremacy led to segregation.
In 1955, Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy, was murdered in an inhumane way by two white men, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam. One of his eyes was missing, his teeth were gone, his ear was shot off, the back of his head was cut through with an axe, and he was thrown in the river after he was tortured. They tortured him even after he was dead. His mother wanted to show the world the cruelty of the white supremacy and Jim Crow. Emmett Till was murdered due to the fact that he whistled at a white woman. Many people, both African Americans and white, came to his funeral service to mourn over his death. His death was a turning point in history and marked the beginning of the social civil rights movement. Once Till's murderers were put on trial and found innocent, the two white men had admitted to killing Emmett Till. This showed the mockery of justice African Americans received, and eventually one of the murderers, J.W. Milam, became a sheriff. Today, many people say they don't judge those by their racial appearances. However, in 2014, Mike Brown, an unarmed 18-year-old, was suspected for robbing a store. He was shot and killed by police Darren Wilson, who stated that Mike Brown was struggling and tried to reach for his gun. Officer Wilson was never accused of murder, and there was never a trial to prove his innocence or give Mike Brown justice. The court said there was not enough evidence to accuse him. There are many witnesses with different accounts of what happened. Some say he was surrendering to the police, while others said he was resisting their orders. The lack of trial led to many protesting and rioting in Ferguson because there was no justice given to Mike Brown. If Mike Brown was a white man and Officer Wilson was a black man, there would be a trial and Wilson would most likely be in jail for this crime.